We speak often of love as though it were a compass, a device meant to point us toward a singular, preordained destination. And yet, how curious it is that in this vast landscape of souls, God's method of leading us to one another is not through grand declarations or heavenly announcements, but through subtler, more sacred means, what some call coincidence and others divine choreography. Let us begin by admitting the truth that grates against our hurried hearts. God rarely moves on our timelines. He whispers where we demand thunder. He closes doors not to be cruel, but to make us attentive to the knock we would otherwise ignore. When we ask him for love, he does not throw open the heavens and drop down a name wrapped in ribbon. He instead begins to shape us quietly, painfully, persistently, until we become the kind of person who can love deeply, receive wisely, and recognize that the soul we long for is not always the soul we would have chosen in our immaturity. You see, to meet your soulmate is not merely to meet someone who completes your sentences, but someone who completes your silences, not someone who fills your life with constant excitement, but someone who walks beside you when everything is quiet, even confusing. It is not always attraction at first sight, but often recognition at second glance. God often reveals your soulmate in the wilderness, not the palace, in the days when you are learning to pray honestly, not just eloquently, in the seasons when you have lost the version of yourself that was built for performance, and are beginning to uncover the self that was made for communion. For how can you find a soul that fits yours if you do not yet know your own shape? He does not send your soulmate to rescue you from loneliness, but to reflect what he has been forming in you all along. Sometimes the revelation of that person comes through discomfort, through missed connections, through an ache that you cannot name until you meet them and realize it has been echoing their absence all along. Sometimes they are hidden in plain sight, and the veil is only lifted once you are ready not just to see, but to serve. The world teaches us to search with our eyes, but heaven instructs us to wait with our spirit. For while sight may deceive and feelings may falter, the soul that is tethered to God learns how to discern what flesh and emotion cannot. The soulmate is not always the one who makes you feel alive, but the one who points you toward life itself. And here lies the paradox. God often keeps your soulmate hidden until you no longer idolize the idea of them. He delays the meeting not out of punishment, but protection, for both of you. He waits until you've laid down the fantasy so you can receive the reality. Until you've stopped chasing the firework and are ready to build a hearth. Sometimes the mystery is not in their appearance, but in your transformation. You are not who you were last year. You will not be who you are next year. And God, in His grace, aligns your growth with theirs, so that your meeting is not a collision of unfinished wounds, but a convergence of maturing souls. And when they come, perhaps not with fanfare or fireworks, but with quiet steadiness, you may find that God has spoken in ways you did not expect. Through the story of their scars that match your own, through the laughter that feels like home, through the patience you didn't know you needed, and the truth you didn't know you could bear. It is in these subtle certainties that God speaks loudest, not by answering every question, but by stilling the ones that used to keep you up at night. The peace you feel when you are with them is not the peace of perfection, but of alignment, like two strings tuned to the same frequency, finally resonating in harmony. So if you find yourself waiting, doubting, praying in half, sentences and aching in half, hope, take heart, for God is not idle. He is not indifferent to the longings you carry. He is not late, only thorough. And in the divine quiet, He is doing what only He can, preparing two souls for the day when mystery becomes meeting and revelation becomes reality. And when it happens, you will not need the heavens to part or the stars to rearrange themselves. You will simply know, not with the knowing of logic or impulse, but with a deep certainty that whispers, "This is the one whom grace prepared for you." And that, dear soul, is the mystery made visible. We often approach love as if it were a prize to be claimed when we finally reach a certain stage of life, or a feeling to chase after with abandon. The world encourages us to seek the extraordinary love story, the dramatic encounter, the instant connection that sweeps us off our feet. But the way God reveals your soulmate is vastly different from this narrative. It is not rooted in spectacle, but in sanctification. God is not primarily concerned with your romantic thrill. He is concerned with your transformation. He reveals your soulmate not by fulfilling your fantasies, but by forming your character. The soul that is destined to walk beside you is not introduced at your convenience, but at the divine intersection of readiness, surrender, and maturity. The fantasy version of love rarely survives reality, but what is forged by God is built to endure. The process begins long before the meeting. It starts in the hidden places of the heart, where God begins to chip away at selfishness, insecurity, fear, and the desperate desire to be chosen. He is far more interested in making you whole than in giving you someone to complete you. If he were to answer your request for a soulmate, while you were still clinging to broken patterns and unhealed wounds, it would not be a gift, it would be a burden. The soulmate is not meant to be your savior, and God will not allow them to become an idol. So he waits, and in the waiting he works. He uses disappointment, silence, unanswered prayers, and inner conflict as tools to refine you. Every delay is an opportunity to grow in grace, in patience, in wisdom, in trust. Each season of solitude is a sacred classroom, where God teaches you to love without condition, to stand without crutches, and to hope without demanding. What often feels like denial is actually divine protection. The people who walked away, the ones who didn't see your worth, the relationships that almost happened but fell apart, none of these were mistakes. They were markers on the road of preparation. Each experience was allowed not to harm you, but to shape you. They taught you what love is not, so you could recognize what love is. They exposed the areas where you looked for validation instead of companionship. They revealed the places in your heart where you were still performing for affection, instead of receiving it freely. These are the lessons that refine the soul, and only a refined soul can truly discern the person who is meant to walk alongside it. God does not lead by pressure or panic. He leads by peace. When he forms your character, he does so patiently. The process is often uncomfortable because it requires you to shed false identities and let go of shallow expectations. It is the journey from demanding love to embodying it. And in this journey, something miraculous happens. You become the kind of person you used to pray for. You learn how to listen, how to speak with honesty and tenderness, how to serve without resentment, and how to receive without fear. You stop looking for someone to complete your life and start preparing to share your life. And in that readiness, God begins to reveal, not necessarily in a dramatic moment, but through quiet clarity. Your soulmate will not enter when you are obsessed with the idea of them. They often appear when your heart is surrendered enough to see them for who they are, not who you want them to be. The fantasy demands fireworks, but God's revelation comes with peace, and that peace is only possible when your character has been shaped to recognize it. There's a depth in divine love that cannot be rushed. It cannot be microwaved or conjured by willpower. It is slow, deliberate, sacred. It grows from the inside out, from humility, from obedience, from surrender. You begin to value what you used to overlook: consistency, kindness, spiritual maturity, emotional health. The traits that build a home, not just a moment. Many cry out to God to show them who their soulmate is, but few are willing to let him first show them who they are becoming. It is in that revelation of self that God prepares you for union. Not a union of two hearts searching for validation, but of two whole hearts ready to pour, serve, and mirror Christ. The more God forms your character, the more your discernment sharpens. You stop being impressed by charm and start being drawn to truth. You realize that real love is not loud, it is steady. It does not demand to be seen, it makes you feel seen. And that kind of love is only recognizable once you've been refined enough to know what matters. The fantasy tells you that love is about being found, but divine love teaches you that it's about becoming. God forms your character so that when you do meet the person He has prepared for you, the connection is not built on emotional intensity, but on spiritual alignment. That alignment isn't created on the surface. It is born deep within the soil of your choices, your disciplines, your values. Your soulmate will not be revealed until those inner roots are strong enough to support what God intends to build. God forms your character because what He reveals to you, He also holds you accountable to steward. A healthy soul must precede a healthy relationship. The character He builds in you will be the very reason you recognize that soul when it appears. The fantasy says love completes you, but God's reality is more profound. It complements you. The soul He brings to you will not fill your emptiness, but partner with your fullness. This is why the formation comes first. Because without it, you would not have the eyes to see what is sacred. You would overlook the gentle, the wise, the faithful, for the flashy, the familiar, the fleeting. But when you have been formed in His hands, you will know what to hold on to. You will know how to pray for them, how to protect what you share, how to grow together without clinging. You will know that love is not just about how someone makes you feel, but how they help you become more of who God made you to be. We are often taught, subtly or directly, that love is something that will fill our voids, answer our questions, and soothe our aching loneliness. We imagine a soulmate as a balm to every unmet desire and unfinished dream. But the way God moves is not always in agreement with our expectations. He is not primarily in the business of rescuing us from our loneliness through another person. He is not trying to give us someone to distract us from our emptiness. Instead, He is working on a much deeper and more mysterious level. When God reveals your soulmate, it is not to take away your sense of lack, but to reflect the spiritual work that has already been happening within you. Love in God's design is never a form of escapism. It is a mirror, a reflection, a revelation of what He has been shaping you into long before you even knew what to ask for. The person He brings into your life will not always enter with fanfare or a dramatic entrance. Sometimes they will appear when you are in the middle of your becoming, when you are finally learning to walk in your own identity, no longer defined by your longing to be loved. When God brings someone into your life who is meant to walk beside you, He ensures that they reflect what He has already nurtured in your soul. That person will not fix you, because you are not broken in the way the world claims. That person will not complete you, because God has already been completing you in His presence. Instead, they will walk beside you, not ahead to pull you or behind to follow you, but beside you, as a partner in the mystery of becoming. Many cry out for love without realizing they are actually asking for rescue, but love is not rescue. Love is a reflection of growth, healing, surrender, and maturity. The soulmate God prepares for you does not save you from the darkness. They join you in walking through the valley with light in their hands. They do not erase your battles. They help you fight them in faith. They do not erase the need for God. They amplify your dependence on Him. And that is why God does not reveal them until you are ready to stop worshipping the idea of them. He waits until you are steady enough in Him that when the right soul appears, you will not place them on a pedestal. They will simply take their place beside you on the path you're already walking with God. Your soulmate is not a distraction from your purpose. They are a companion in it. They do not make you lose yourself, but help you remember who you are in the presence of grace. They reflect back to you not only your strengths, but the parts of you that still need refining. And because they are rooted in the same spiritual soil, they call you higher, not just closer. You grow not only in affection, but in conviction. The connection is not only emotional, but deeply spiritual. You find yourself praying more, not less. You become more honest, not more performative. You find peace, not perfection. The love is not without flaws, but it is full of faith. That is how you begin to know that what is forming is not a romance built on fleeting feelings, but a partnership built on eternal truths. When God reveals your soulmate, it is often in the most ordinary moments, because the extraordinary lives in what the world overlooks. It may not feel like fireworks, but it will feel like clarity. It may not feel like obsession, but it will feel like peace. There will be a deep sense of recognition, not of appearance or status, but of spirit. It will feel like God saying, "This one sees you," and not the version you've curated for others, but the one you've wept with in prayer. This kind of love sees your battles and doesn't run. It sees your weakness and doesn't judge. It sees your calling and doesn't compete. Instead, it strengthens you, encourages you, and believes with you. It takes time to become the kind of person who can carry that kind of love. That's why God does not simply drop your soulmate into your life as a reward for waiting. He forms you through seasons of growth, through refining fires, through trials that shape your character, through solitude that cultivates intimacy with Him. He teaches you how to rely on Him first, so that when you finally receive the gift of a partner, you do not misplace your worship. You are no longer seeking someone to affirm your worth, because your worth is already secure in Christ. You are not clinging out of fear, but embracing out of abundance. You are not driven by desperation, but led by discernment. The love God reveals through your soulmate is not transactional. It is transformational. It doesn't ask, "What can I get from this?" but rather, "What can we build together under God's guidance?" It doesn't exist to make you feel good every moment, but to call forth the best in you even when it's hard. This kind of love is forged in prayer, shaped by purpose, and sustained by grace. And the person who reflects this love will not just be someone you're drawn to. They will be someone who speaks to the eternal parts of you. They will not simply make you smile, they will make you kneel. They will not merely excite your emotions, they will sharpen your faith. You will find that the connection is not only about how they make you feel, but how they help you grow. Their presence is not an escape from reality, but a deeper entrance into it. Reality where love is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of someone who chooses you through it. You begin to realize that your soulmate is not just the one you love, but the one who reflects what love has taught you. They are a visible reminder of what God has done in the quiet places, in the hidden chapters, in the long nights of prayer and surrender. Their heart is not just compatible with yours, it is aligned with heaven, and in that alignment, something divine begins to unfold. You see not just the blessing, but the process that led you to it. You see not just a person, but a reflection of the journey you've walked with God, the healing you've embraced, the identity you've reclaimed. They do not distract you from the divine. They draw you deeper into it. There is a hidden grace in the way God conceals what is sacred until the heart is prepared to honor it. The person you are praying for, the one you long to meet, the one whose soul is quietly tethered to yours by divine hands, is often hidden not because God is withholding, but because He is protecting. He knows how easy it is for us to project our expectations onto others, how quickly we idolize the idea of love rather than learning how to love in truth. So He waits, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. He knows that if you were to meet your soulmate too soon, you might not recognize them for who they are. You might see them through the distorted lens of fantasy, not with the eyes of the Spirit. And because He desires for you to experience the fullness of what He has prepared, He hides them until the fantasy has faded and the soul is ready to receive what is real. The heart that is desperate to be fulfilled by someone else cannot fully discern the beauty of what God sends. Longing in itself is not wrong. It is human to ache for connection, to crave companionship, to hope for love. But when that longing becomes obsession, when the idea of a soulmate becomes a golden idol in the heart, we begin to see through a clouded mirror. We pursue love to be saved from our loneliness rather than to share the wholeness we are growing into. God does not give sacred things to souls still clinging to illusions. He waits until your hunger for a person is surpassed by your hunger for Him. He waits until your gaze is no longer fixed on the emptiness in your life, but on the richness of His presence. When your identity is no longer shaped by the need to be chosen, but by the unshakable truth that you already are, you begin to see with different eyes. There is a quiet transformation that takes place when you stop chasing the fantasy and begin trusting the Father. You start releasing the list you made, the one filled with traits and timelines, dreams and declarations, and you open your hands to what is better than what you imagined. The person God is preparing for you is not the perfect one from your dreams, but the real one from His plan. And that real person comes with strengths and weaknesses, joy and pain, light and shadow. They are not an answer to every question, but a companion in the questions you will face together. They are not designed to complete your world, but to join you in discovering the deeper layers of it. God often waits to reveal your soulmate until you have released your need to control the outcome. The fantasy version of love says you must go find it, chase it, secure it before it slips away. But the divine version teaches you to be still, to listen. It teaches you that the person who is truly for you will not pass you by, and you will not miss them by accident. You begin to learn that it is not your striving that brings them, but your surrender. In this surrender, your heart is softened, your expectations are refined. You begin to recognize that the person God is forming for you is not just being prepared externally, but is also being formed spiritually, just as you are. You are not alone in your waiting. You are not the only one being shaped. Somewhere in another place and time, someone is also being drawn away from fantasy and deeper into faith. And when that meeting happens, it will not feel like the climax of a romantic movie. It may be quiet, even unassuming. You may not realize it at first because there is no flashing sign to announce the sacred, but something within you will pause, something in your spirit will know. There will be no performance, no striving, no fear. Just the steady sense of recognition that this is someone whose soul does not demand from you, but resonates with you. That resonance is not always immediate, and it may not be dramatic, but it will be unmistakable. Because you have let go of what love is supposed to look like, you are now ready to receive what love truly is. The person you used to think would fulfill you may look nothing like the one God has chosen for you. And when the veil is lifted, you will understand why He waited. You will see how your pain prepared you to hold their heart gently. You will realize how your disappointments made room for humility. You will look back and thank Him for every delay, every silence, every prayer that went unanswered. Because in that waiting, something holy was happening. You were being set free from illusions. You were learning how to love without conditions. You were being trained to see with spiritual eyes, to hear with spiritual ears, to love with a heart that no longer grasps in fear, but gives in faith. God's timing is never careless. He unveils what is sacred only when you are ready to revere it, not possess it. Your soulmate is not a trophy for your patience or a reward for your pain. They are a reflection of what God has done in you and what He is doing through you. And so, the longer the veil remains, the more you are being prepared to cherish what lies behind it. And in this preparation, you begin to realize that love was never about getting what you wanted, but about becoming who you were always meant to be when the fantasy fades. What remains is far more beautiful than you imagine. It is not shiny, but it is steady. It does not dazzle, but it endures. It is not perfect, but it is true. And truth in the hands of God is always wrapped in mystery until the moment He chooses to reveal it. Until then, the work continues, not in finding someone, but in being found faithful, not in chasing love, but in choosing love long before you see its face. And when the moment of revelation comes, it will not be met with surprise, but with quiet awe that says, "This is what my soul has been prepared to see all along."